Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're well. I hope you're well. My name is Rihanna, and I am the founder of the S.E.L.F Project. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, had a bit of feedback there. So yes, I hope you're well. I hope you're well. Welcome to the S.E.L.F Project. My name is Rihanna Ebanks Bab. I am your host for today. I hope you are well on this wonderful Sunday morning. So today we are going to be covering the power of self-teaching. So thank you for those of you that are joining us. We really do appreciate you spending your Sunday morning with us. So before we kick off, just a short intro. This live podcast will unpack the meaning of the self words that we'll be discussing. So in the past, we've had the power of self-discovery, the power of self-awareness, the power of self-destruction, and this week we are covering the power of self-teaching. Now, the whole point of these self shows are to help us understand, embody, deny, or improve these different aspects of ourselves through the shared stories, the tips, and the resources that we share on these shows to see every life fulfilled, which is the full version of the self acronym. So, as many of you should be aware, if you've been following the show, they are held every fourth Sunday of the month and they are soul changing sessions. I swear to you, I learned so much from the research that I do in advance, as well as the guests and the after discussions that we have across social media platforms. So, if you are following us, you would know that the power of self teaching was the first most rated self word to be explored in and amongst so many other great self words. So I will not hold back on starting this show today of the power of self teaching. I will see you shortly to introduce our guests. Okay, welcome back. I know you love my short intro, but I have to do it every time, you know? So, without further ado, the power of self teaching. Yeah, this is going to be a powerful one, and I've been wanting it for so long. So, I'm so excited to speak with our guests about self teaching, self learning, self directed studies. So, without further delay, we're going to introduce our first guest, who is Naya M.K. Davis. Naya is an eclectic, intuitive practitioner and creative soul whose daily ambition is to be Semba. And she is the founder of Ashe Unfolding and one of my soul sisters from Holistic Renaissance. Welcome, Naya.
Blessings. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me as a special guest.
Thank you. And please introduce yourself, tell your viewers and our fellow guests who you are, what you do, and why you are actually here on the Self Project talking about the power of self teaching.
Okay, so I am eclectic, meaning I am many things. I am intuitive, meaning I follow my own inner joy and expression. And
Mm,
I am creative because that's exactly how I apply all of that.
mm.
I am self-published. I host a intuitive development group. I host a networking group. I host many things, and I also am huge on collaboration because I have so many aspects of self to
Mm,
apply in so many ways.
mhm.
But creativity is my joy. It's what I follow and it's what I allow to organically flow. And beautiful things come from that. And that is
Mm.
why I am here to talk
Yay.
about all the many ways I have self-taught myself to
Mm.
jump into this aspect of self.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. And looking forward to the discussion. Appreciate you sharing this space with me today. Thank you. So, our next guest, we have Lordia Lewis Spencer. And Lordia is a psychotherapist, clinical supervisor, lecturer in counseling, and founder of Protea Psychotherapy. Welcome to the stage, Lordia.
Hello, good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And as Naya, please tell our guests and viewers who you are, what you do, and what brought you to the stage to speak on the power of self teaching.
So, hi everyone, I'm Lordia Lewis Spencer, as you clearly stated. A counselor and psychotherapist, clinical supervisor, and in terms of all of this, it's about self-actualization. We want to be the better versions of ourselves, and that means different things to different people when we're on this journey. And the self-teaching, self-reflection, all of that comes into it, encapsulates what I do on a daily basis. So, what brought me here is just to sort of unpack, explore with you guys what it means to you as well as to me, and to see how we can get the message out to others about the empowerment that comes with self-teaching and being self-learned, just going out there, finding purpose, finding meaning, and
Mm,
working towards that sort of central goal for you. And I've got to stress that for you, because that's completely different and unique for everybody. So that's me.
amazing. Thank you so much. So succinct, but elaborative. I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. And again, thank you for sharing space with us today. And
You're
our
welcome.
next guest we have is another one of our WR Holistic Renaissance sisters. This is Natrel Mystic. Natrel Mystic is the founder of Resonate with Rena and is known as the creative budgeting mentor. Welcome to the stage, Natrel.
Thank you. Thank you. How are you all doing?
Good, thank you. Good, good, good. So, again, please tell our guests and viewers who you are, what you do, and what brought you here to talk on the power of self teaching.
Okay. Originally, I'm an engineer currently. That's my sort of daytime job or daytime career.
Hmm.
And when I first went out into the working world, I actually wanted to be a teacher.
Hmm.
So that element of me sharing information with others and being receptive to information is just instilled in me. It's always been there. But by night, should we say, the creative budgeting side of things came in when I experienced some financial hardship,
Hmm.
and I literally had to become creative with the finances or the income that it is that I had.
Mm.
So it kind of trickled out from there, and then other people were kind of like, "Oh, how did you manage to do that? How did you manage to do that?" So, yeah, I would say that I'm a practical mentor. So I'm not just a person who talks. There has to be an action that goes with it in order to see the reward, success, or the progress.
Mm. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. Um, and yeah, I'm very much looking forward to all of your angles on how you are developed in your establishment of self teaching. So, thank you very much, Miss as well. So, let's kick off the show because yeah, I've been quite excited and had a few coffees already today, so I'm a bit jittery, but for a good reason. For a good reason. So, what I like to do with these shows is provide a definition, but not my definition, just through the research that I've been doing, what self teaching actually means, and how we apply it. So I'm going to share two different definitions that I've come across, which I find quite interesting. So the first one that I'm going to share, as long as all my tech permits, is what the actual definition of self teaching is. Hope you can all see my screen. So self teaching is known as audiodidacticism. I hope I'm saying that right because I've practiced it so many times. But self education, self teaching is the education without the guidance of masters, such as teachers or professors, or institutions such as schools. So that was one definition that I came across. And I felt, okay, I see where it's going with that. I like that definition, but I felt like it could go further. So I came across this other definition that I felt was a bit more fitting and elaborative, and I will share this with you all now. So this one is from Indeed, okay, and it says self learning is any education or learning that you initiate yourself away from a setting of formal education, curriculums, or examinations. Independent learning is about self motivated discipline and dedicated to improving self and your skill set. Learning away from the traditional structures of school, college, or university encourages you to be proactive and help you gain a more profound understanding of the subjects you're studying. It can also help the development of soft skills, including problem solving, research, and resilience. Modern technological advances, particularly the internet, have made independent learning a far more viable and accessible option for everyone looking to develop a new skill or learn a new subject. The internet, smartphones, and a wealth of learning and educational apps have made massive amounts of information available to everyone who wishes to access it. At the same time, there are a host of bespoke tools for learning and developing new skills. And self-education combined with modern technology, let me scroll down, gives you the flexibility and freedom to learn whatever you want, wherever and wherever you want. So, before we get into the conversation, what's your thoughts on those two definitions, those two statements on the actual definition of self teaching and what it means to be a self learner? Feel free, anyone, to call out. And I guess I'll pick on someone if no one brings themselves forward. Um, so, yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
I liked both of them personally,
Mhm.
is what I would say. The extended version definitely touches many buttons with me and hits many bullet points,
Mm,
as in saying it's self-initiated, so it can be in any area. And then just while you were reading, I was thinking, wow, I did my sort of hygiene certificates for my food business during lockdown online, and I've done this initiated, and I'm
mhm,
trying to learn this language, and I'm trying. So now it just made me sit there and think of all the different things I'm actually doing in the background where
mhm,
I'm learning personally along the way. So some of it is trial and error, some of it is kind of planned. I know what I'm doing, but even
mm,
just as fact is said, using the internet or using a smartphone, those is where we've had to self-teach ourselves over the
yeah.
last decade or more than any other thing that we've ever done in our lives, as far as I'm concerned. Because you
Mm,
find a new device, a different brand, a new app,
mm,
and then that opens up a whole catalog basically of having to learn something. So yeah, the fact that it mentioned that it maybe should have started with those rather than say we access them. It's like we had to learn to access them, you know what I mean, in
yeah.
that sense. So yeah, it feels that
Yeah.
there is an actual learning in everything we are currently trying to do or have done.
Mm, yeah.
Mm,
I like that. I
yeah.
like that. Thank you very
I
much.
I appreciate both, but I would say back back before I was just open to sort of self teaching, I would have been a little bit more audio, a bit more of the audio didacticism because of formal education and being
Mm,
quite academic and being taught that's the way to do things. And I
mm,
think
mm,
within that, there is strength, but it's also limiting because it kind of blocks you into whatever it is that formal education that you're trying to sort of
yeah.
stimulate. It's got its strengths in that, but it's very limiting. So once I was able to sort of open my mind and open my, the opportunities which are available to expand and expound upon those, I realized, there's more to this. So yeah,
Mm,
I ascribe to both and I appreciate them both.
yeah. I agree. I agree. There is a lot of crossover from like a pedagogical perspective
Mm,
into the didactic perspective. So
yeah.
I can definitely agree that there is some form of formal structure. It just depends on where that process comes into play in that learning journey.
Mm,
So thank you for that, Lordia. Naya, what's your thoughts?
I really like both of them.
Mm,
The first one I felt was just a little bit too compressed, like
mm,
you said. I did love that the second one elaborated a lot more.
mm,
Um, I think it's also important to mention that sometimes when it comes to self-learning, one of the key aspects that I have realized tends to be it's something that you enjoy.
yeah,
We very rarely go out of our way to teach ourselves things that we do not enjoy.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so sometimes you don't realize that you're learning because you're
yeah.
having fun, because it's joyous,
Mm,
because it
mm,
seems like you're relaxing, so to
mm.
speak. And one thing, I don't know if it mentioned it, but books, what happened to mention of the library? I'm an 80s
Yeah,
baby. We were
yeah.
all about I was all about the library, should I say.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that was my best friend. If we were studying something at school, I would go out of my way to maybe go and, you know, have a
yeah,
little extra look into it. And
yeah.
the library was always my first point of contact,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
No, I
So yeah.
agree. I'm of the era of the encyclopedias. You know, when you've got
Yes.
that big stack, it's like I need to learn something with like
Yeah.
A to D. Let me find out what I need to learn. But yeah, yeah, they got rid of all of those. Those will probably be a good bit of bucks
I've
now.
still got my collection of childcraft books.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your insight to the definition. I agree with all of you in many ways. So with that said, let's kick off with our first question. Because I find there is a lot of information out there. But when it comes to self-teaching, I found that when I was doing my research, a lot of it was to a particular practical skill. So whether it be dancing, engineering, baking, makeup, those type of practical skills. And I'm going to throw this first question to you, Natrel, because I know that you've got a lot of practical skills. You mentioned about being an engineer, but I also want you to now weave into this conversation what resonate with Rena actually is as well. So my first question is, when did you realize that you had a craft that was more than a hobby, and what inspired you to transition into a process of self-teaching?
Okay. In all honesty, my brother inspired me to buy this little epoxy resin kit. And it came with a few like little ink dyes and stuff. And for some reason, he was waiting to do a course where he learned to do driveways and kitchen cupboards and units and worktops and all of these different things. So I was like, oh well, if he's learning to do it like officially, let me see
Mm,
what this stuff kind of is out of curiosity. Then maybe it's something we can work on together. Because I
mm,
was basically looking for something to do with my hands. I was kind of
mm,
let me find something to do, and I couldn't really. I tried knitting and crocheting and sewing and that sort of stuff, which I still do, but it
mm,
wasn't enough, if that makes sense. So I had this little kit. I started to make a few bits and pieces, and it all went wrong as it does because I didn't read the instructions. I thought I knew what I was doing. So therefore, the teaching came in. Oh, maybe I need to read the instructions.
yeah.
Literally started making a few bits and pieces, and just started taking the odd picture and going, "Oh, I made this, I made that." Nothing too special. And then
Mm,
someone said to me, "Can that stuff make dominoes?" And I was
mm,
like, I don't see why not. It's quite durable. Let me see what I can do. So you go on the old internet as you do a search, you buy a little mold and it's got all the dominoes, and then you think, okay, let me see if I can do this. So you pour a set as an experiment and see what happens. And then I don't know about you lot, but what I have to do is test them to make sure that they didn't break or that they weren't sharp and things like that. So I went around just slamming them on different surfaces. Sounds so bad. Just because I knew that that's what we would be doing with them before I could
mm,
advertise. So therefore, I was confident when it came to, oh, I'll just put a little picture up on Facebook. Oh, I'll just put a little picture up on Instagram. And
mm,
that's kind of how it started. Is just, and then someone would be scrolling by and I'd pop up and they were like, oh, did you make those? I was like,
mm,
yeah. And I just started experimenting with color and
mm,
texture and sparkle. And so it was a kind of a weird transition as to where it came from, as in out of nowhere.
yeah.
And then it was basically friends who said to me, you can make a business out of that. So I started doing research, as you do, like you said, in it, and looking at what other people were making
Mm-hmm.
and the size and the price and all that sort of stuff. And then I realized that there was a whole like world of Afrocentric or Caribbean inspired stuff that
Mm,
hadn't been made or that I had seen or found in
mm,
that bespoke, personalized way. So once I learned that I could actually make it fun because I'm learning about our islands or our countries and our states and
mm,
our continents and all the different foods and textures and colors that we all like. So it led me down a historical path, which is what I did at university. So they both went parallel for me. Was
yeah.
kind of learning about something new, but also connecting it to us as a people. So
Mm,
that marriage of what it is that I produce is basically very organic in that respect. No two pieces are the same, even if they're the
yeah.
same colors. because it's just the way resin works. It's very fluid, which is what I liked, but you have to be quite strict with it. You have to be patient. You have to be grounded. You have to breathe properly, because I've noticed if all of these things are off balance with me, the piece that I'm making just doesn't come out the way that I want, or it's got air bubbles in it because I rushed it, or I drop it, and just something also, it makes me and takes me to a place of complete intuitive creativity in that moment, but it's so grounding, so peaceful. It feels like it's even a part of meditation or healing while I'm doing it as well.
Lovely, lovely. And I just want to highlight the point that you mentioned about learning other aspects whilst learning the craft, because I find that we negate that aspect of, yes, we have something that we like, we enjoy, but in order for us to perfect that craft, we have to do the other surrounding learnings for us to get to that point that we're satisfied, that we're content with that skill that we're trying to develop. And by way of doing that research, you're honing that skill, but you're also learning a world of different other things as well that can aid your next creations and your next set of interests. So thank you for shedding light on that.
Most welcome.
Yeah. What about yourself, Lordia? If you want me to repeat the question, I'm more than happy to. But in regards to like a hobby or a craft, when did you realize that it was more than just a hobby, and when did you transition into the self-teaching aspect of your journey?
Well, to be fair, it doesn't start as self-teaching. And, I went into therapy thinking, oh, everybody talks to me anyway. They tell me everything. I'm always the one who's mitigating and mediating. Everybody tells me their secrets.
Yeah.
So might as well I do it professionally. Oh, how wrong was I? So anyway, I went down the formal route of the working and realizing, okay, I really like this. This is really good. How can I get this as a qualification? And starting, as I said to you before, there is almost a snobbery about the self-teaching, okay, so you learn a dance, okay, you're into dancing, okay, so when are you going to get it professional? When are you going to train professionally as a dancer? So everything always has that sort of snubbery to it. Like, okay, so yes, you're an artist, but where did you study? Not so much power to the self-teaching aspect. And I'm from that school, and I know that it's not the best. So I've had to train myself for years to give value to what comes with self-teaching. So once I realized this is something I want to do, obviously for me, naturally, it would have gone down the academic route where it's formal and it can be validated by others, that kind of stuff. So that's when I started my route to train as a therapist. Whilst doing that and seeing the value working through my placement, working within sort of group facilitation and seeing the dynamics amongst the group and how I fit into that group and the dynamics that I bring in my personality and my relational depth, how that sort of transform or interplay into the dynamic. I wanted to know more. And that's where the self-teaching, getting extra books that wasn't on the curriculum, reading things and following other sort of philosophers that wasn't a part of the reading list that I was giving, that's where my own sort of interest in self-learning became sort of enhanced. But it didn't start like that, like I said. It started with the more formal academic and sort of that number like, you're not learned unless it's formal, So now I'm stepped away from that and I do understand the importance of yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand. And particularly with a profession like counseling and psychotherapy, I find that there is a very much a need for a framework and a standard, and there's a need and a space for that, because not everyone that is practicing would be practicing well. First of all, they could
Yeah.
be
Or
inflicting more harm
ethically.
than good. Exactly, ethically. So when it comes to specific intervention type of work roles and interests, and it needs that essence of, I guess, a standardization of
Yeah.
competency to enable people to be practicing well. So I can understand the formal education route there, but I really like what you said about the additional learning that's not on the curriculum, because that's where you learn the most, I find,
Yeah.
because it gives you the foundation, the principles
Yes, yes, yes.
in the classroom, but it's the real learning outside of the classroom that takes you that step further in your career, in your grades, and it shows. It really does show.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And like my colleague here says, it's just about you tend to gravitate to the things that you enjoy. So I found out that I was reading stuff that resonates with me in terms of culturally or just psychologically, attachment theories and
Yeah,
sort of love languages and little things like that, which really sort of, oh, this sounds interesting. So I was more
yeah,
likely to want to read those and read one more and then read something else, and then before you know it, I've got all these books that I've read, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
wow, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can agree. Thank you so much for that. And Naya, let's bring your take into this. When did you realize that your crafts were more than a hobby? And when did you start implementing self-teaching on your journey?
I have always been self-taught.
Mm.
With everything. What I've always been given has never been enough. So I
Mm.
always take myself beyond that.
Mm.
You know, example, if we're in class and we're reading a book, I have to get to the end of the book so that I can start studying things from my
Yeah.
own perspective before the teacher starts teaching me, because I want to be able to counteract with my own views.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't actually realize that that's what I was doing until, you know, it started to get a little into the year, and people would be like, you know, the other students would be like, oh, you finished it already, or why have you gone and looked at that, and how did you know this? And I'm just like, I went and found out about it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but because my creativity is so eclectic, you know, I've taught myself to sing, I've taught myself to do my own hair, I lock my own hair. Before that, I used to perm my own hair, press my own hair, you know, weave my own hair, make my own wigs. You know, if I come across something, and one of the things I like about self-learning is it teaches you to value the work that other people do.
Yes.
You know,
1,000%.
very important to know what it is you are paying somebody for.
Yeah.
You know, so if you go to an example, a hairdresser's, and they're asking you to pay £120 for, you know, one track of weave or something, and I'm a little bit like, I can do that at home for £30.
Yeah.
You're overcharging me, you
Yeah.
know. So self-teaching is very important when it comes to your own economic balance.
Yeah.
You know, how much do you give to that financially, emotionally, mentally? And it's an exchange. You know, at the end of self-teaching us or something, there's a reward, there's a sense of satisfaction. So I think that my most recent experience was with animation. I came across these tools and I thought, oh, let me see if I can do this thing. And I put this little thing together, and some of my sisters said it was pretty good.
Which it
So
really is, by the way. If you haven't seen
intuitively,
her work, go and look on her YouTube.
intuitively, I was kind of like, yeah, let me just send this to this person who is a publisher and see what they think. And I sent it to her and she was like, wow, you know, my clients
Yeah.
would love this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then it just kind of grew from there. And now one of my self-taught aspects is a children's and book animator.
Yeah.
So, and that's my most recent, but it doesn't stop there. You know, it continues, it grows. So now I'm looking into illustration, you know, because
Yeah.
I love to draw. Peace of
Yeah.
mind. But I'm also a home educator. I home
Yeah.
educate my children. So they are individuals. I'm constantly finding other creative ways to apply my
Yeah.
creativity to them in their
Yeah.
own individual aspects. So yeah, that's my most recent experience with taking something that I, you know, was just intuitively led to create and
Yeah.
turning it into something more.
Yeah. And that links to what Natrel was saying before about the different aspects that you have to learn as part of that craft. Because, yeah, the final product, people see an animated video, but they don't see the graphic design, they don't see the animation, they don't see the voiceovers, they don't see the editing. All of those are different separate skills that people pay for an individual project. So, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I think that leads me nicely onto the next subject or the next question, because you mentioned about being a home educator, and I always have found it interesting, particularly whilst we was during lockdown. A lot of parents were kind of forced into educating their children, whereas some people it was elective from the start. So from a home educator's perspective, and I'm going to throw this to you first, Naya, because yeah, makes sense. But from a home educator's perspective, how do you choose the topics and the skills that you want your children to learn, as well as the resources that would be helpful, not only for them, but for you to be able to deliver that teaching for them?
I find that I tend to seek a more structured and educational, like systematic educational foundation for subjects that I am not very strong in. So one of the things I'm not very strong in is maths. You know, obviously I can add, 2 and 2 equals 10. I'm only joking. But, I can do simple maths. But when it comes to teaching your child who is maybe interested in music engineering or interested in building something, angles and, y equals p and all of that, I'm just,
it's like
yeah, I've
over my
forgotten all
head.
about it. So then I would have to seek but I'm very fluid in the way that I teach my children. So we do not I'm home educating, not homeschooling. There's a slight difference there because homeschooling follows a curriculum set structure. I'm very fluid, like I said, with their individual needs and understandings. So, we could take a topic and my daughter will ask me a simple question. It could be something like, why is that leaf green? That then turns into a lesson. So I would look at, I would give her the information that I have, and then I would say to her, give me a moment, I'm going to go away and have a little look at some other resources that maybe you can look at. I watch everything first, or I watch it with them, because no matter where you go for information, especially when you're home educating, everything is an influence. And it's not to say I want to minimize the way that they are influenced by. I want them to be able to manage multiple streams of information. So I will not just give them one. I won't just go to the Collins dictionary and say this is this. Like exactly what you did at the beginning of the video. You provided 2 different perspectives on the same thing. And that is what I try to do to them. And I always try and teach everything from a theorized perspective, not a factual perspective. So, if we're learning about space, I've never been, I've never spoken to anyone.
Many of us haven't been.
Right. So when it comes to teaching them about planets and what the earth is made of and crust, I give them all the information on that one little aspect so that their minds are not closed. And that they can, know that there's more out there. Go and seek it for yourself. Comes from your individual understanding.
I find that definitely supports with autonomy as well as critical thinking skills, because, when it comes to taking information as it is at face value, that's where we become institutionalized in our approach to learning. And by way of providing multiple sources of information, they're able to discern what is needed for them and what isn't, but they're not, that information is negated from the conversation and from the learning process.
And it encourages them to look at the aspect that rings true for them, to follow their own intuition, maybe I'll speak about astronomy and one of them wants to go and study Saturn and the other one wants to look at Mars. I feel like in a institutionalized environment, you don't have the freedom to do that. So
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Lordia, what about yourself? How do you choose the topics or the skills that you want to learn to develop yourself further from where you are to where you want to be?
Well, I suppose when you posed that question, I was thinking more from the students I teach. Obviously, they're adults, and like you said about institutionalized, it can be quite narrow. So it's about encouraging what aspects of this that you actually sort of resonate with, and where do you want to go with it, and given that sort of autonomy and freedom to say, yes, there's a formal structure here, and there's a sort of levels of criteria and standardization that needs to be met. However, there's a scope that you can sort of elaborate and expound upon, and just allow persons to do that. And I think in that sort of accepting self-teaching for myself, I'm able to then sort of encourage that in others. And I think that's where the learning really happens.
Yeah, definitely. And even thinking of because my background is within psychology as well, so understanding a multimodal approach to how people would understand psychology within itself. There's many different schools of thought within psychology, as well as many different intervention styles. And I guess that's where I start thinking about people that list themselves as integrative therapists, because they take on not only the structured learning that is provided within a psychotherapy program, but also additional learnings from different schools of thought, maybe that's less traditional or less westernized, that they can incorporate into their practice as well. So
Yeah,
I
there you go.
appreciate
There you
that
go.
stance.
And even from the same aspect, even when working with clients, yes, there's a modality that I'm following. There's a certain sort of aspects and theory that I sort of ascribe to. But what
Mm,
about you and your learning and your self
exactly.
learning? Because you're an individual within this process. Yes, the theory's been researched, it's been proven, but you're an individual in this, and how do you sort of relate to this in your own perspective? It's
Yeah.
about sort of enabling and empowering persons to be able to do that from
Yeah.
self-taught, self-learn.
Definitely, definitely. And that brings me to this diagram, because when I was doing the research, I started thinking about the different types of learning styles that people
Mm-hmm.
um have within, say, a traditional classroom setting, and how difficult it can be to manage that as a teacher. So even when you are self-learning, you have to understand the different types of learning styles that are applied with your own self-teaching methods, because they will vary based on the different skills that you're trying to learn and the different subjects that you are trying to teach yourself. So thank you
Mm-hmm.
very much for highlighting that as well, Lordia. Okay, Natural, over to you. Um, Topics and skills, and I find it particularly interesting with the resin, but I want you to touch a bit more on your creative budgeting skills that you've been developing, and what topics and skills you've learned, as well as the resources that you use for your self-teaching journey.
Yeah, it was. I had to filter down a lot of the stuff that was out there because, again, some of it just didn't align with who I was as a person or the way that I'd want to do things. But
Mm,
it's like the budget inside of it and why it became creative is it came out of nowhere. One of those things where you just kind of go, right, I've never had any savings. And how do
mm,
people save, for example? What do they save and what do they save for? So
mm,
just asking yourself those basic fundamental questions with everything that you do. So I was like,
mm,
right, I'm just going to start with £2 coins because they were fairly new and there
mm,
wasn't very many of them, for example. And I wanted to see over a course of a year how many of them I could save. Every time I got one, I'd take it out of my purse, I put it to one side. And
mm.
then one year I actually paid off half my council tax just in £2 coins.
Oh
And that
wow.
was, yeah, that was what activated everything else from that one moment when I stood in the post office and I gave her my card and I gave her the coins. It was all bagged up and she goes, wow, you saved all of these coins. And she was so kind of mesmerized by my determination, my
Yeah.
dedication, my discipline. And I was
Mm,
like, yeah, this is very a self-teaching moment by saving the coins. And then
hmm.
by her speaking to me about it was again another self-teaching learning moment with, well,
Yeah.
okay, she sees things in me that I didn't even see in myself.
Yes. Yes.
And that was it. It was what else can I do? How else can I be creative where I can still go out, I can still get my clothes if I need them, I can still have a social circle, but I still want to be in the background chipping away at the stuff that is causing me maybe stress or depression
Mm,
or bringing my feelings down. And that's what it was. It was about minimal income. Can I increase my income? And if I'm
mm.
going to increase my income, what am I going to do with the additional income that I've got?
Yeah.
And it was just keep going. It was kind of like a treadmill, but kind of a bit uphill to begin with.
Hmm.
And but it was just perseverance. I had to keep going because I knew that there was an outcome, there was a goal, there would be an
Mm,
end date.
mm,
So I'd use spreadsheets, for example, how much have I paid off of this person? Can I pay this one more, shrink this one down a little bit? Can I get ahead with certain things so it then eases the pain, so in other areas? And it was literally sometimes robbing Peter to pay Paul. You
yeah.
hear those
Yeah.
types of sayings. And when I realized that I could juggle like that, but that meant taking out no additional credit, that meant
Yeah.
accruing no additional debt, things again, discipline,
Mm,
commitment. And it was all about even looking at the way other budgeters, should we say, had or other financiers would talk about money. And I'm saying, these people are talking to me because they've got money. I need
yeah.
to talk to people who don't have money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
difference. Big difference in regards to the conversation. You could,
Mm,
they would talk about investments and saving. And I'm like, my guy, I'm trying to pay an electric bill over here.
yeah. I don't
So
have money for the investments.
yeah, and that's basically what it was, and that's how other businesses then became affordable businesses for me. So
Mm,
like for example, the resin, it pays for itself.
mm,
I mean, everyone says, oh, put your prices up. I'm like, no, It's not sometimes about having a high end price. It's about having a quality product, a brilliant service, but then something that people can afford
Yeah.
more so than, because that's the position that I was in. I could see things that was out there that I wanted. People would tell me the price. I'd be like, oh, okay. Let me move on. Nice
Yeah.
stuff though, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
I prefer for someone to even say, do you negotiate? Do you barter? Can we exchange services, goods, products, whatever it is, in order for me to keep that transaction going? And that's
Yeah.
basically what happened. I started bartering. I started swapping products with people, right? I'll advertise you, you advertise me.
Mm.
And literally learning, like you said, being creative and budgeting, making sure that if there wasn't a clear profit, I wasn't going to lose. That's all
Yeah.
it was, no more loss. So even if I
Yeah.
break even, then as far as I'm concerned, that's a learning experience. How did I break even? Why did I break even? What can I do then maybe to increase my profit margins and that sort of thing?
Yeah. And
And a
even
lot of
keep
the
that
times,
consistent.
yeah, and being consistent. And a lot of the times it is about just upselling. When you say to somebody, oh, I do rings and bracelets and earrings as well. Like, oh, really? And then before you know it, they've placed an order that they wouldn't even have thought that they were placing because it's affordable for them to do so,
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
sense. So sometimes knowing how to be a good salesperson, but for the right reasons, in
Mm.
that sense, you don't realize how you learn that stuff along the way as well from working in different environments or being around different people. So watching how
Yeah.
people move, watching how other people do it. So in regards to resources, again, a lot of it was done via online stuff or going into banks and speaking to the financial advisors, should we say, and then
Mm.
speaking to people who didn't have money. And I realized there was just a huge gap between the two. They
Yeah.
don't seem to, they weren't on the same page, they weren't even talking to each other. And
Yeah.
that's when I kind of swooped in the background and said, I need to be able to bridge that gap.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is why these conversations, such as this, are really important, because bringing three different perspectives to the table on how to become a self-taught individual, whether it's finance, whether it's formal education, whether it's homeschooling and a range of creativity. Conversations like this are so important for us to be able to share this knowledge. So I appreciate that so much. And I guess my next question to you all, I'm gonna start with you, Lordia. Um, when do you find the time to self-teach, and how do you balance this with your other commitments? Because I know that you are a teacher as well as you own Pro-T psychotherapy. You, I'm guessing, also have your private practice where you are doing counseling and psychotherapy on a
Mhm.
one-to-one basis. Yeah, how do you balance the time and
You make it sound so busy. But it is. And that's the thing. When you do enjoy something and you love it, as my colleague has said here, is that you don't notice how much effort and time you've invested in your self learning and your
yeah,
self thought. So even setting up a practice, they don't teach that formally. They say, "Oh,
yes,
here's your qualification. Now you're a psychotherapist. Go out and help people." They
yeah,
don't tell you about budgeting, pricing yourself in the market because there's many therapists. They don't
mhm,
tell you how clients are going to find you. They don't tell you about the tax, HMRC. Oh God,
yeah,
don't start me on that. They don't tell you about the marketing, even just like setting up a Facebook page and
yeah.
Instagram and putting yourself
Ethical
out there.
marketing as well.
Exactly. They don't tell you anything of that. So for you to then have a business that you classify as successful or running it successfully for years, that is self-taught. And that's something I self-taught myself. I pick things up. Network. I pick things here.
Yeah,
I Google things there. I YouTube. I outsource, like getting an accountant and stuff like that. But these
yeah,
are things that you do learn that, listen, I'm going to teach myself this, and what I can't do myself, I'll teach myself how to make the money to then outsource it.
yes,
So, so
yeah,
there's things that you do without even realizing that you're doing it. And once you have a passion for it, the time goes and you don't realize. And I think this is where the boundary comes in, where I've got to be quite strict upon my boundary, even though it's something that I enjoy, that realizing it's still work,
mm,
even though you're learning and you enjoy it, it's still work. Put your phone down, spend time, relax, reflect, meditate. It is work, just stop. So
mm.
that's something I've got to learn as well to sort of find the balance.
Yeah, it's very true, and I like that point. Because we can often go with the wind with our interests, and it's like, oh,
Mm.
6 hours later, I'm still here. and I was meant to take a break, but I'm enjoying myself so much. But it is still work. It is
It is
mentally
so
taxing because it takes energy, it takes concentration, it takes time. And like what you said, being able to balance that with counter actions that enable you to refill your cup, and so you're then able to go again. Thank you
Yeah,
very much
no,
for
it is
sharing
so
that.
work. I just even find myself, even the TV programs that I watch is couples therapy, all these stuff. I'm like, it's still work. I'm still trying to pick up things. I'm still trying to learn. I'm watching, even when I'm watching Love Island or something, the Big Brother house, I'm looking at the dynamics and looking at say, Lordia, calm down. It's work. Stop analyzing. Stop reading. Can't you just watch something for the sake of it? So I had to train myself to even just watch trash TV and just see it for
Yeah.
what it is. And maybe just watch something like stand-up comedy and not to overanalyze it. Oh, so he picks on that person in the crowd and wonder why he done that. Yeah. So
I
yeah, it's
could
just about
relate.
as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. That's so important. It's so important to do something that's mundane, even though like you might
Mm,
enjoy it, but being able to have something that's mundane. I guess sometimes I call it mind numbing because it means that you don't have to think about doing it. It's just done. So
yeah.
yeah, thank you for highlighting that, Lordia. Natural, let's bring your perspective into this. Like, I know you do so much, but how do you find the time? How do you balance?
I don't watch TV.
That's true. I know you don't.
Yeah, I don't own a TV. I don't watch TV. If I do, it's for a specific reason, usually a learning tool. It's usually about decorating or DIY or something connected to some sort of car mechanics or tools or something, because that's just the
Mm,
way my brain works. But yeah, there's time. I get up at 6. It's sometimes just because that's what my body likes to do. I don't have
mm,
to leave the house for like an hour. I've got a routine in the morning. I know how long that takes. If I want to go and pour a bit of resin, then I can get that ready. That can, you
mm.
know what I mean? And then by the time I come back in the evening, so it's just a matter of fitting things in and knowing that there is a lot of people say, oh, there's 24 hours in a day, but everyone's 24 hours is completely different.
Yeah.
And there are times I come in the evening after work and I'm physically exhausted, but I've had this idea in it. So
Mm-hmm.
let me just run it past the sisters then quickly. So at least it's like recorded mentally in a
Yeah.
voice note or something. So I can go back to it and listen to it and remind myself. But yeah, not feeling guilty when you do switch off.
Mm,
It's also part of the process. That's a learning process as well, because a lot of us will beat ourselves up when we go, I should have done that today. I could have done this. The shoulda, woulda, couldas that we
yeah.
all throw at ourselves a lot of the time. And there are
Yeah.
moments that I just go, no, I'm menopausal. I'm just going to sit here today and
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
of nothing so I don't sweat for just half an hour. Like literally, just telling, but it's all healthy, it's all beneficial, it's
Yeah.
all making me ready, like you said, for the next step, for the next adventure, for the
Mm,
next piece of creativity in that respect. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
yes. Thank you. Thank you. Can hear a bit of feedback somewhere. Okay, it's stopped now. But yeah, thank you so much for that offering. Because yeah, being able to be Semba is important during these moments. Is that buzzing me or is it someone else? I think it
I'm
might be me.
muted just in case.
Um, it starts every time I speak. Okay. Hopefully it will stop and it's not too interference. But speaking about being Semba, Naya, how do you balance yourself?
Okay, so as you know, obviously home educating. I don't know where this feedback is coming from.
Yeah, it's still there. I can hear.
Yeah.
Can you?
Lordia, maybe could you mute, see if it's your side? Oh, I think I can mute you on this side.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Oh, right. So yes, home educating. My three youngest children are around me all the time. Sometimes I try to incorporate what I'm doing into what I'm teaching or exploring with them. I do get them, quite involved in some of the things that I do, as long as they are interested. I'm not a pushy parent, so it's like, are you interested in this? This is what I'm doing at the moment. Would you like to, do it with me? Otherwise, do your thing. But I also have insomnia. I've had insomnia for many, many, many years. I probably sleep on average about 3 hours out of every 24. And what I used to do is I used to spend a lot of that time trying to sleep, trying to shut my brain down.
Yeah.
And it was counterproductive because I just get stressed out because I'm thinking, time's passing and I haven't slept, and then I've got to get up at this time, and it just used to become stressful. So then I started to think to myself, well, I'm awake anyway. What can I do to relax me in this moment? And that is literally one of the ways I started to take, my intuition and apply it creatively and have something by the morning. Because I've been awake all night. The other night I created 3 workbooks.
Oh wow.
And I'm just a little bit like, wow, I did that. So that's kind of how I try and use my time wisely. I limit the amount of conversations I have. I've learned to accept that my phone rings for a reason. If I was supposed to answer every call as and when it rang, it wouldn't ring, it would answer automatically. And it doesn't. That means I have a choice. I can choose whether I want to spend 50 minutes talking to this person that's calling me now, because I know the only thing they're going to talk about is, maybe it's just the same old man problems that we spoke about last week, or it's the same old argument that they're having in their family, and I'm a little bit, I have to limit my time, because that takes a lot out emotionally as well. So it's all about emotional management, mental management. And when you're doing something that you enjoy, it allows you to better manage your mental health.
Yes.
Because you're enjoying it. It's like a dopamine hit, isn't it?
Yes.
And we all know that our bodies respond to that. So when you're getting this dopamine hit, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't put this thing down. And there are times where I'm like, look, it's 4 o'clock in the morning now, I go to sleep. And I'm like, I just want to finish this last little bit. And then I'll finish that bit. And then, oh, I forgot to add that.
Yeah.
And it just never ends. I'll lay down to sleep, and then I'm getting creative hits. Like, make a story about this, write this, paint that, do this, sing this song, write this poem. And my phone is my constant companion. I keep it by my bed. That means that I used to get up and type my ideas, but then I realized that I'm like 3 pages in now, and it was only supposed to be a note. So now I do voice notes. I have like 2,000 voice notes of just things that have come to me. So I think it's self-management when it comes to self-learning and teaching yourself things and all of this exploration. Be Semba, find the joy, and learn to become the person that you can trust.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much, sis. Thank you. Okay, so before we go over to our break, we've got one question to ask, and I think I'm gonna throw this back out to Lordia, actually. Yeah, I'm gonna throw this one back out to Lordia. And the question is, how do you network with other self-teachers, mentors, or professional bodies, and what benefits do you get from them? So I know we've spoken a lot about self-teaching, but also what benefits do you get from a pedagogical type of directed learning?
And this is something I need to improve on, because especially when you work in private practice and stuff, you can just limit those that you need to see on a daily basis. But just going out to events, conferencing, and sort of being very proactive in finding these events and physical. Over lockdown, I found it was quite helpful online, and then transferring that online to in person. But it's just sometimes after you've had a busy day and being tired, just feel like I can't be off to go out to socialize and to network. I haven't got the energy. But it's just about being proactive. And what I do find is that I leave them feeling quite inspired, quite motivated, seeing someone share their journey. Like, it reinvigorates me at some point. And even just me sharing mine and someone saying, oh, I'm inspired by your journey, that reignites my passion to sort of go back, self-learn, self-taught, do more of what I'm doing and be better at what I'm doing. So I find it very useful. I think it's very, very, very useful. The saying, no man is an island. I truly believe that. So having network is quite important.
Yes. Thank you very much for that. Short and concise, but very much packed with really good information. Because, yeah, it can be such a struggle to try and network and go to events, and especially when you are building something or learning something, it can be very difficult to integrate that into your existing schedule. But a lot of the time, those spaces is where you can make those further connections with people or get that additional information where you may have had a gap in your own knowledge, and they may be that link that you needed to create that whole picture, be that additional puzzle piece. So yes, it's again like the last question about having that balance, but also finding those spaces, finding people in your tribe in different spaces as well. Thank you very much. Naya, what about yourself?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, sorry, that's fine. I was just saying, how do you network with other self-teachers, mentors, or professional bodies, and what benefits do you get from them?
I'm huge on collaboration, and something I started probably about 5 years ago. It became something concrete that I do, which is I limit my conversations. So again, like Leisha said, she doesn't. I own a TV, but I don't watch television. If I watch something, it's because I've chosen to watch it. So you know when people are like, "Oh, what's on that commercial? Have you seen it?" And I'm like,
Yeah,
"No," you
yeah,
know, because I don't watch TV like that.
yeah.
But sorry, I've just gone off of my train of thought.
No, it's
See,
okay. It's
this is what
okay.
happens with my ideas.
The question is about how you network with other self-teachers,
You were
mentors, or
saying you're quite
professional
big on
bodies.
collaboration and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yes, the collaboration, that was my key
Mhm.
point there. So I tend to collaborate. If there is something that, remember I touched earlier on finding a little bit about something before you ask somebody to do something.
Yeah.
So it's very easy for me to appreciate when I approach somebody and say, look, I see you do this thing. I also do this thing. Can we bring our things together and, reach more people? And, you still do what you're doing. I still do what I'm doing. But we come together and network that way. So I tend to broaden my network through collaboration,
Mm.
organic collaboration, because word of mouth is still the best business.
Yeah.
It's still the best and most reliable source of business. And if you don't talk to nobody, I'm not very good at selling myself, but other people are very good at seeing the value in what I do and telling others about it. So I go out of my way. If I'm sharing something with one person, I know that one person has a potential to share it with 10 others. So I always give. And I give organically, not with the intention of it becoming business, because sometimes business isn't financial.
Yeah.
I've gone out of my way to build for myself a very solid foundation and community of other individuals who are doing their own thing and provide support, ongoing support to me.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily in buying something from me every month.
Yeah.
It could be as simple as them sharing a one post,
Yeah.
but that is networking in itself and it's organic.
Yeah.
So that is how I approach it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And Natural, over to you before we head over to our break.
Yeah. I was gonna say I'm one of them I'm not proactive, but I'm one of those brave people.
Hmm.
I literally go into shops if I see that there is a gap in their products. And I think, oh, I know someone who can fill that space or who can add value to what it is that they're always presenting, in that way. So I go past yoga shops, Pilates shops, spiritual journey, healing shops with all the tarot cards and all the other
Yeah.
nickety knacks. I go to car boot sales, I go to antique fairs, I go to markets.
Yeah.
I put myself in those places where I eventually want to be as a business owner, if that makes sense, and go and speak to those people that are already there. Like Sis Naya said earlier on, just sharing something that I've made on social media. If I've made something for you, just take a little picture of it while you're wearing it, while you're using it, to show it in situ, the quality of it, even if it's a bad review to a certain extent. Oh, it took too long or whatever. Those are all experiences for me to learn from. I need to be a bit more quick with my turnaround times or
Yeah.
update people if there's going to be a delay. and that sort of thing, and that, so yeah, keeping it the quality there in the same
Yeah.
instance, but also being a realist, if that makes sense, and just being an open and honest person, but definitely putting myself in the places where I eventually want to be. I never used to be like that, and I've realized that transitional skills that I've taken from somewhere else, and now I implement them in this way, thinking, thanks, mum and dad, for sending me to stage school when I was 9 and 10 and teaching me how to put myself out there center stage, or how
Yeah.
to work behind the scenes. But
Yeah.
however, which way it is, the product or the production is going to
Mm.
be fantabulous. Do you know what I mean? In that sense, that's what I've realized, that I've got these skills that I can now utilize over
Yeah.
here in a different way. If I've got to get on stage and make a bit of a clown of myself, if you know what I'm saying, but it gets people's attention. They're like, oh yeah, she's that funny girl who makes that stuff, or she spoke about saving £2 coins. And having young children, or you lot's children should be, say, run up to me in the street and go, my mum or dad watches you on social media and I'm allowed to watch you too. For
Mm.
me, that is the greatest thing I could ever hear, is that not only adults are listening to me, but they're also allowing the next generation, their children, to also listen to my perspective and where I'm coming from. So
Yeah.
that means teaching somebody is always free. I learn
Yeah.
something about myself. I learn something about my environment. I learn something about my capabilities, my
Yeah.
mindset, every single moment of every day with what I do with work. And
Yeah.
I can take all of that stuff from outside work and implement it into work in regards to my creativity, how I got that cable up there without the customer noticing it. In the
Yeah.
same instance, I take all of that engineering skill and then implement that into my resin or the piece of furniture I want to make. Or just engineering is such it's just taught me to think more methodical and
Mm.
logical, and that there is a process for everything. So break it down. There's step one over here that you might have to learn first before you can even think about step two and step three. And
Yeah.
that's how life is, to be quite
Yeah.
honest with you. You start with Velcro and then you go up to laces. Do you know what I mean? It's all a process.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So we are going to head over to our break. And whilst we are on our break, if you have a look in our chat, there's a few messages. So this is how you can watch our past episodes. And if you follow that link, it will take you to a playlist of all of the power of series. Okay. And then there is the Self Project link to the website where you can grab your workbook, learn more about the Self Project, understand how you can be notified about the upcoming community of practice, and apply to be a future guest. And those of you that don't know, this is what the workbook looks like. It's printed and it is also available in digital versions as well. And the whole point of having the workbook and the community of practice means that we can take all of these learnings offline in a more intimate setting and support each other on our journey to be fulfilled, whatever that fulfillment looks like to you. And if you are digging what we are doing and you want to sponsor us for future episodes, you can do so by reaching out via email. Whatever whatever you see fulfillment being, and it be a product or service or event that you think would be helpful to push this agenda forward on being self-actualized individuals and self-fulfilled individuals, feel free to reach out and we can work out a sponsorship collaboration. And last but not least, we are self-funded, so we are speaking to anyone that wants to dig deep in their pockets and make a donation to us. If you are willing and able to, help us out so we can continue pushing some great shows, some great products that, again, that can support you to fulfill your lives. Okay, so are you all ready for this and that? Do you know what this and that is? No. Yes, no, no, yes, no. Okay, so I always play this and that on the show. This and that is a game where you have to make why can't I talk? A quick snap decision. Yeah, a quick snap decision on whether you like this or whether you like that. Okay, so I'm gonna call out a few. I'm gonna call out your name first, and then we're gonna see what you like, this or that. So first of all, I'm gonna start off with you, Natural. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Calls or texts?
Calls.
Winter or summer?
Summer.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
That's you're not allowed to do
I
that.
had to
Coffee
try
or
one
tea?
at least, isn't it? Tea.
Okay. Neutral colors or bold colors?
Bold colours.
Why bold colors?
It enhances my personality.
Oh, okay, okay. We don't like no mundaneness over here. We like
Yeah,
vibrancy.
we're not mourning. We're living. We're surviving.
It's
Yeah.
true. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm gonna come back round to you. Lordia, are you ready?
Righty.
You ready? Okay. Nice car or nice home interior?
Nice home.
Okay. Mansion or cabin?
Mansion.
Long drive or long walk?
Drive.
Why drive and not walk?
They say that my husband loves walks, and I don't I get tired. But I do think I enjoy nature. But drives, I think I just like it. If I'm not the one driving, I'm in the passenger seat looking through the window, then I love that.
That's true. It's a nice relaxing way
Yeah,
to
if I'm not
yeah,
driving, we can go much further and can see so much more.
that's true. Okay, one more. Rain or sunshine?
Sunshine, obviously.
Some people like the rain. I like the rain.
Yeah.
Okay. I will circle back round to you again. Naya, are you ready?
No.
Well,
Okay.
you gotta be.
Hit me. Hit me.
Okay, boss or worker?
Boss.
Ooh, boss. Okay, paper or plastic?
Paper.
Fast or slow?
Slow.
Cry or scream?
Scream.
Why scream?
Because it's a quicker release.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for that. Back to you, Natural. Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Intelligence or humor?
Humor.
Okay. Modern or rustic?
Rustic.
Why rustic?
Because I can make it look modern.
I like that. I like that. I like that. Okay, one more. Hope or freedom?
Freedom.
Okay. Okay. Why freedom?
Yeah, that was hard. But then I think of people who don't live like how I live, perhaps, and have more restrictive or restrictions day to day in general. And I'm quite rebellious. So I think, and not like I've run out of hope, but yeah, freedom is definitely feels more important at this time of life, I would say.
I hear
Yeah,
you.
just free to think, to dress, to move, to communicate. Yeah, if I took all of that away and I only had hope, I'd feel like I didn't have very much apart from hope for freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love
Do you know
that.
what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Lordia, are you ready?
Ready?
Okay. Money or free time?
Money. I can pay people to do stuff. Yeah, money.
Okay. Truth or lies?
True.
Okay. Sinful or righteous?
That needs context. Sinful or righteous?
I can't give context as this or that.
Or righteous.
Why righteous? That one seemed like a bit of a struggle for you. Why did you need
Because,
context and why righteous?
because being overly righteous can also be sinful in nature, isn't it? So without context, so if
Yeah.
I feel I'm overly righteous, so what does that mean? And am I being judgmental of others, which is in itself a sin? But anyway, I'm not going to overanalyze that.
I like that.
You got me thinking now, like, that's so true.
Righteous, yeah, righteous.
Okay, thank you very much. And last but not least, Naya, are you ready?
Yes.
This one's funny. Morning person or night owl?
Mhm.
Night owl.
Painting or photos?
Painting.
Email or letter?
Letter.
Why letter?
Because I incorporate automatic writing. I love to let it flow. And with email, I feel it's like disconnect with the technology, you know. And when you're writing, you can't take back what's been written. It comes out as it comes out, right? Unless you premeditate it. So yeah.
But you can type a letter and print it.
Yeah, but you see when you're typing, it's easy to delete what you've just said.
True,
You know,
true.
if you're writing a letter, it's a little bit more focused. And you can tell a lot in the way that your letters are as well
Yeah,
when
the
you're sharing
psychology of
something.
writing.
Yeah, so
That's true.
yeah, that's why.
To add to what Nair is saying, I think more as well in terms of free writing, in terms of if you're writing without being too constructive in your thoughts, you're just letting it flow, then it's more easier to flow in terms of the subconscious and what's coming out, rather than thinking about what to type. It flows better
Yes.
handwritten.
Definitely. That's why when it comes to journaling, I always encourage people to
Yeah, to
journal
stuff like
using
yeah,
pen and paper or pen and notebook
yes,
rather
then
than
typing
typing.
exactly that. Mhm.
Okay. Thank you all for joining in on my silly game. I appreciate you.
I liked that game.
Yeah, it's not silly. I like it.
Yeah, it breaks it up because everything can feel so serious.
Mm.
It doesn't need to be so serious all the time. But yes, thank you all so much. And just a quick reminder to everyone that is watching, like I said earlier, you can watch past episodes of the Self Project here, where we've covered a range of different self words, and we'll be covering a range of more self words in the future. You can learn more about the Self Project, get your workbook, the one I showed you before, and the one I will show you again, either physical or digital copy, as well as learn about the community of practice and be a future guest. You could be a sponsor by reaching out via email, and you can gift us a donation via PayPal. Are you ready to jump back in to the Self Project, the power of self teaching?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, given the fact that this show is aimed to support seeing every life fulfilled, um, Natural, I'll start with you in this question. Why do you think self teaching is so important for living a fulfilled life? And what advice would you give for anyone that's challenging the status quo by way of self teaching in their daily practice?
For me, I just kind of, when I realized from school, should we say, that sometimes my questions would make the teacher's head itch, and they would make it out like it was a bad thing to question what it is that they were delivering. And I'm not questioning them as a person, I was just questioning what they were trying to either get me to believe
Yeah.
or take note of and remember, that sort of thing. And then I'd go home and I'd have a conflicting sort of conversation with my parents.
Yeah.
They would always say things to me, go and find out for yourself, but not in a bad way. It was more to teach me how to do research, how to be a person of discernment, for example, and how to separate the wheat from the chaff. And those are the things I remember them saying. And then becoming better at research or better at learning, because of what we heard earlier in saying that you learn better when you add your own learning to what you're already being taught, or your own ways of research. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't to just disrespect what teachers were saying or what my peers were saying. It was more to do with trust. Can I trust what you're saying to be true to it, or to be factual, and not what everybody says or shows you or does is truthful or factual in that way, sort of thing. And that's all it boiled down to. I'm a person of stability, structure, and security. Those are kind of like my three favorite words. And if you fall outside of those words, kind of thing, I do kind of doubt your teachings or your abilities to show me anything or to teach me something. So again, through trial and error and learning more about myself, in turn, taught me to learn more about what was happening around me. So it kind of went hand in hand. If I don't know myself, then I can be led down any path to believe anything. But then the more I learn about myself through whatever process or challenge or whatever it is in that way, then it's still more learning on top of the knowledge that I already have. It sounds a bit complicated, but yeah.
No, it makes a lot of sense to me. And you're getting some nods, so yes, it makes sense. Thank you very much for sharing. Naya, what about yourself?
Please repeat the question, sis.
Yes, that's fine. I was asking, why do you think self-teaching is important for living a fulfilled life? And what advice would you give to someone that's challenging the status quo, and integrating self-teaching into their daily practices?
Okay, so I would like to start with the advice aspect. My advice is study and consistently pay attention to yourself. Because as you learn and as you take on this information, you are going to evolve.
Yeah.
And it's going to bring out different aspects of yourself. Again, one of the things I taught myself, like going back to not answering my phone. Some people started to think that I was quite rude. Oh, I called you and you're not answering the phone straight away, or I called you and you're only calling me back in half an hour. And prior to that, I would feel really bad, which is why I would answer the phone all the time, because I wanted these people. It was for the people, it wasn't for myself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was causing me emotional stress, and that has ripple effects. So boundaries.
Yeah.
Have some strong boundaries for yourself about how far you are willing to go, how much you are willing to give, what is within your capacity.
Yeah.
Because people, if you give, people will just take. They will take and they will take and they will take and they will take, because not because necessarily that they are, wicked or something like that, but sometimes people don't realize how much they're taking because you give it so freely. So learn to study yourself, pay attention to your growth and your journey and the things that are shifting for you. And know that sometimes it can be sad, it can be lonely. And the more you know about yourself, the more time you are able to comfortably spend with just yourself. I love my own company. Somebody, an example, somebody spoke to me about, a question was, how long could you go in solitary confinement or something like that? I have so many personalities within myself that I'm in touch with. We would have a whale of a time. When it comes to, could I do it without tools or resources? Yes, because I've studied, visualization, and I've looked at how I can apply that to myself. I've been bedridden for 4 times in my life for a maximum of a year. And when I say bedridden, I mean, having bed baths, can't get up, extremely weak. And at that time, the only thing I could use was my mind, because I couldn't read. It made me sick. I couldn't watch TV. It made me sick. I couldn't conversate. It used to make me sick. I literally just had myself. And I had to learn to be in that bed and not worry about, just in the present moment, what can I do in this little moment here while I'm awake, laying here with my mind? And, sometimes I would paint an image. Sometimes I would, I don't know, it's just things, isn't it? Make up stories or,
the first half of the question as well, why do you think self-teaching is important for living a fulfilled life?
Because without knowing yourself, and you learn and discover things about yourself through self-teaching, not through people teaching you things. So that's why it's important to live. That's the only way to live a fulfilled life. How can you fulfill what you feel is your potential, without studying and exploring that? Somebody can look at you and say, well, I think you're going to make a great maths teacher, and then you constantly go, trying to get this certificate to be the greatest maths person and everything, and you get there at the end of it and you're like,
I don't even like maths.
Exactly.
It's true. It's true.
Whereas if you stay in touch with yourself along the way, you may start studying maths, but you might find it takes you down another route and you apply that to become an architect because it's building that you really love.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so staying true to yourself will take you to places other people cannot take you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Lovely. And Lordia, yourself, please.
So
Do you want
repeat
me
the
to?
question just to make sure
Yeah.
I've got it. So the first half of it is
Why
what's
do you think
important.
self-teaching is important for living a fulfilled life? And second half
Hmm.
of it is, what advice would you give to someone who wants to challenge the status quo by integrating self-teaching into their daily practice?
Okay. So the first off is I think it's quite important, especially even from just who you are as a person. And I won't elaborate much because Naya covered most of my thought processes anyway. But it's more from that sort of self-actualization, being better versions of ourselves. And no one can do that for us. And there's no one suit fit all kind of structure in terms of achieving that. So you
Mm,
have to do self-learning and self-taught to get to that specific needs for self. Yes. Also, I think it encourages self confidence and self esteem because if you're validating self and you're not solely sort of relying or waiting on external validations to validate your thought processes, what you've learned, what you do well, what you don't do well, then
mhm,
I think that feeds into your confidence. And I know
mhm.
they say, oh, self recommendation is no recommendation, but if I haven't got the confidence and the capacity to say, well, I'm good at cooking and I've taught myself and I'm very good at it, then who someone recommending you is good, but yes, you know, you still got to be able to do that for yourself and have
Yeah.
some confidence about you that I'm good at this. And the second half of the question is, go
The
on.
sec the second half is, what advice would you give someone who wants to challenge the status quo by integrating self-teaching into their daily practice?
I would say be respectful because yes, we might have we all agree that self-teaching is a way forward and there's advantages to it, but not everybody's at where we're at. And in order to sort of um, teach others, we got to be respectful of where they're at in their journey. So
Mm.
it's about being mindful and respectful as we sort of learn, teach them through example,
Yeah.
and give them the grace and the patience that they need to come to terms that maybe there is some benefit
Mhm.
in self-learning, and maybe there is something about the going against the status quo, but how that is done still needs to be challenged. Just like society, you can challenge it, but there's a way of doing it to remain still respectful.
Yes. Thank you. I like that. And just on that
Mm,
point, I just want to share this manifesto that I came across. Let's just call it self-teaching manifesto because I
mm,
always stumble on the word. But commit to lifelong learning, create your own curriculum, add new skills to your toolkit, and cultivate a beginner's mindset. Develop a growth mindset and take charge of your learning. Use effective learning techniques, and hard work beats talent.
mm,
Sometimes, not all the time, but make time and space to learn actively for experimentation, practice deliberately, be consistent, step out of your comfort zone, challenge
mm,
yourself and take risks. That's a big one. I'm always emphasizing the power of positive risk taking. Also, it has about make mistakes, try again, build things, ship fast and iterate, and love the learning journey. So, those are some additional pieces of advice that I would like to share with you all as well. Thank you so much. So I think I'm going to move on to the next question. Just two more before we round off and we get your self suggestions for the next show. Um, I'm going to start with you, Naya. Um, what are the most joyful, rewarding, or surprising outcomes that you have discovered through your self-teaching experience?
A better understanding of myself. That's what
Hmm.
brings me the most joy.
Mm,
Understanding myself better.
okay.
It's allowed me to manage my responses.
Mm,
It's taught me that not everything deserves a response. And it's taught me to perhaps refrain from sometimes giving my opinion,
mm,
to apply myself where I am well received.
mm,
I think that been the biggest journey, the biggest things that I've learned through self-teaching. Because a lot of people teach themselves these things, but they teach themselves these things so that they can show up in spaces and dictate to others.
mm,
I have no desire to dictate. I only have desire to have that influence over myself. I will share my perspectives, but I want to be the source of the information that I am giving. Yes, you know, I could maybe recommend something that I've read, but I'm not going to, you know, if I'm going to, okay, so for example, say I read this book, Self-Love, right? I'm not then going to say, yes, and in chapter 1 on page 3, blah, 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 and tell you the whole paragraph.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to take that information, process it, and then I'm not going to regurgitate it. I'm going to share what my perspective was on it. You know, because then that broadens my understanding. It broadens your understanding. And when I take the time to apply that perspective, I have found that I am a lot more empowered in my emotions, how much power other people have over me, in regards to being able to draw me out or elicit certain responses from me. You know, so I would say that that's been, you know, the main things. Those have been the main things.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Natrel, what about yourself? What have been some of the most joyful, rewarding, or surprising outcomes of your self-teaching experience?
I think just looking at all of them, I think it's not even confirmation from others, but it's the affirmation from others, but certain people. So like when my brother looked at my resin pieces, for example, and he's kind of went, "You doing all that by yourself?" Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of surprise in his voice, but then it kind of, yeah, I did that. You know, because that's where it all started, was just a spark of inspiration from him, or just a few words that he said. And I think it matters who kind of gives me a compliment, like I said at the beginning, that's where I feel successful, when other people look at something I've made and they go, I want one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you can have one too. You know, like, I mean, it's that kind of, yeah, that's that smile that it gives me when people say, yeah, your smile grows when you talk about the things that you're passionate about. And people literally see me oozing with enjoyment and excitement, and I'm going, oh, they want me to make something, and I get all excited, and then you lot know in the background I'm going to do it this way, I'm going to do it this way, and these kind of combinations, and taking the risk, the experiment sometimes that works out. So I'm learning how to make things have layers within the resin, and doing like a new technique, or trying something different in the resin that I wouldn't. So taking those risks and then surprising myself with the outcomes more so than anything, was just like, okay, so now I want to start making furniture, and now I want to start doing this. And, you know, my confidence has boosted over a two-year window with the amount of positive feedback that I've had. And people even saying, have you got this mold? And it's like, no, but I can make them now. Do you know what I mean? Self-taught. So it's all those things that, with the positivity that my business has helped me, but then also in a more creative way. And for me, the word fail, it just equates for first attempt in learning. That's all it is. So we, you know, and I take it back to something from when I was really young, which keeps me going. If we, you know, when we were learning to walk, when we fell over, if we never got back up, we'd all still be walking on all fours. So therefore, just that thing from when you're a toddler is something that we keep on doing throughout our whole lives, but we don't even recognize those small incremental growths that happen continuously throughout our lives. And that's what we need to remind ourselves of. Every single day we learn something, either about ourselves, our environment, or about the way we respond to somebody or not respond. But there's always a learning moment in everything. And just being appreciative that you can learn, that you have the ability to learn. Say thank you for that even. Do you know what I mean? Then that's what it is. Kind of being thankful for being, for willingness for life. And that's what life kind of teaches us, is that you're learning. Just put up with it. Just accept it. There's no way around it.
It's true. It's true. Thank you so much. I'm making notes as well. I'm going to go back and watch these and make my notes, because you lot are dropping some gems. And last but not least, Lordia, what, in your opinion, has been the most joyful, rewarding, or surprising outcome over your journey and experience?
I wouldn't say surprising, but I would definitely say joyous is where I'm at today, who I am as a person, you know, becoming this version of myself. And it's the self-taught, self-learning journey of, you know, deciding that, okay, this is where I'm at and this is where I'd like to be as a person. And obviously I know that we are forever evolving and self-actualization isn't a sort of destination, it's a direction. So we're always sort of working towards that. But just looking back at where I was like 10 years ago, just being able even to have the capacity to think about it from, we are sponges and we learn as we go. So thinking about the people we have in our circle, we're an average of the top 5 people we spend the most time with. So even just being conscientious about choosing who I'm spending my time with, so then I can learn through sort of evaluation and self-learning. I'm pleased. I am very joyous when I look at my growth and people are like, oh, so you think you've arrived? No, darling, I haven't, but yeah, I like romance.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I love
So
that.
I'd say that's the most joyous, my growth, my self-development.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. And I think for me, I'll throw in my 2 pence piece in there is the most joyous thing for me on my self-teaching journey, and I will relate this mainly to my poetry and songwriting, is the self-belief that's been developed over the time that I've been writing. So my background, I've mainly been writing songs. I've been a songwriter since I was 7, but during lockdown was where I really started to hone my poetry writing skills, because I was like, well, if I can write songs, I can write poems because they rhyme and it's practically the same, but it's not. It's very different. But I would say the self-belief that's been developed by way of getting things wrong, but knowing that that's a step further to getting things right to how I want them to be, particularly when it comes to the delivery and execution of how I want the volition of my poetry to come across to people. That's significantly improved. And getting feedback from people, like what Natrel said, getting feedback from people that are qualified to give me that feedback. When I say qualified, like I trust your opinion to be a qualified opinion, valid, and of from a place of love, and not just a yes person, because I can't stand yes people just saying yes for the sake of saying yeah, it's great. No, give me the critical parts that I need to work on, and be honest. So yeah, that's what I would say my most rewarding aspects of my journey has been. So as we round off our last question, I'm just going to ask you all, what are some of the current or future goals that you might have, and I'm going to couple that with where people can find you and what your next projects are. So it's an all-encompassing question, and I will start off with you, Lordia.
So my goals, I would love to have retreats and training programs. And obviously now I sort of lecture within an institution. I'd love to do that for myself in terms of having my own organization where I could have more sort of autonomy over the structural way of teaching and implement a lot more self-taught within the process. So that's something I'd really like to do. The business is Protea Psychotherapy Practice. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram by Protea. Just type in Protea. There's not many therapy practices known as that, so you'll find me. And as I said, I'm a therapist, so if you know anyone who needs mental health services, just send them my way. I'm a clinical supervisor as well, so I supervise the work of other therapists, and I lecture, so I train other people who's training to be therapists. So this is me. I'm all rounded, and I'm here.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And just highlight again where people can find you, because that kind of got a little bit distorted on my end.
So the main source is my website, which is proteapsychotherapy.com. And you can also find me on Instagram, which is Protea Psychotherapy, and also on Facebook, Protea Psychotherapy.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Wanting to make sure it's all clear so that way we've got that right plug, people can find the right person. Thank you very much. Naya, what about yourself? What are some of the current or future goals you have as a self-teacher? What upcoming projects do you have, and where can people find you?
Well, I have a lot going on. I never know where my intuition is going to take me or my creativity. At the moment, my focus is children's animation. I just self-published my first children's book, which I am very proud of, because I have many a story inside me, but I don't have the time to write long stories. And literally, I wrote the children's storybook in probably a night. And it just flowed. Again, poetically.
Mm.
So, you know, at the moment, I am adding new services and resources to my website, and you can find me at asheunfolding.com. That is the best place, because if you type it into any browser, all of my things will come up. You'll be able to find all my social networks. I am on most of them, but I don't apply the same thing in every space.
Yeah.
So you may find, you know, on my TikTok, I've got more poetic things on there. My Facebook is a little bit more about who I personally, individually am on a moment to moment basis. And my YouTube has all my creative works on there. So I have poetry, I have animation, I have a little bit about narration on there as well.
Yeah.
So I'm branching into quite a few different creative areas. And again, asheunfolding.com is where you will find what I'm all about in the moment.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. And Natrel. I keep about to call you Leash, but yeah,
It's all
Natrel.
right. It's all right.
Yeah,
What,
future
yeah.
projects, goals.
So future projects is that I want to create a collection of a range of resin bits and pieces, to be quite honest with you. So whether it be for kitchen, bathroom, whether it be for your living room, bedroom, that sort of thing. So yeah, so lamps, lampshades is my new thing. Larger pieces is where I'm becoming a little bit more confident at the moment, because I've got some new stuff going on in my head that I want to try. It's like commission for soap dishes, bathroom pieces, display pieces. Yeah, so other people are asking me for stuff.
Kitchenware.
Yeah, kitchenware. Yeah. Even working on like stained glass type looking pieces as well. So you've got window hangings, clocks. I'm doing, yeah. So the range is expanded, but it's getting bigger as the confidence grows. Where do I see myself? I actually want to have like a gallery type event,
Oh,
where I showcase my products, you know, the white wall space with all the
yeah.
different bits on plinths and, you know, all of that sort of stuff going on, because that's kind of my foundation from when I went to college, was basically doing 3D art. So that's how I look at it in that respect. And then yeah, shop front, shop space, shop window, workshop space, even an online workshop, but I would prefer to actually work with physical people in my inner space of some sort. So those are the potentials. That's where the goals are going. That's where I see myself going. Road shows up and down the country, you know, showing people how to do it or where to get it. So yeah,
Amazing.
Resonate is resin with the number 8 on the end.
Yeah.
And then with Rina, which is RINA. If you type it into any search engine, it pops up. But if you also type in Natrel Mystic, which is displayed on the screen here, all of my other accounts are linked. So you can actually just type it into Google or Bing or whatever search engine you use, and it will bring up everything that I am attached to. So Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and Lord, but the websites are coming. So
Yeah.
I'm doing my own websites because, again, the self-teaching,
Mm-hmm.
budgeting element, you know, that sort of thing. That's why I'm teaching myself in that respect. I will one day have the money to hand it over to a professional in that respect who can tweak my idea that I already have and that sort of thing. So I won't let anyone have total autonomy over what it is that I do or what I produce. I still want to be able to have that influence over it, or ownership, which is so important when it comes to sort of websites and copyrights and trademarks and that sort of thing. So I'm just making sure that we are, you know, I'm covered in that way where someone can't just shut down my website without my permission because me and them had a falling out or something silly. So yeah, it's a matter of having that autonomy and doing that little bit more of that self-teaching, which again helps me save loads of money, and then I can teach others how to do it as well.
Yes. Passing on the learning. Thank you so much. Okay. So we've lost Lordia, but hopefully she'll come back. In the meantime, thank you for sharing the information on how people can find you. There was the information in the description box below. If anyone missed anything, click on those links, copy and paste it into a browser, and make sure you connect with our lovely guests. So we have now come to the end of the power of self-teaching. But let's try and figure out what our next show will be. So I'm asking you for your self-word suggestions. Those of you that are watching, feel free to drop a comment in the comment box. But whilst I have you both on screen, what next self word would you like to see on the Self Project? Naya, as you are on off mute, what would you like to see?
Leisha clearly has something to say. Go
I knew
ahead,
you was going to
Natrel.
say that, you know. Do you know what, though? The next word that kind of came to mind was discovery.
That's been done already.
I know. And that's why I was just like, I know it's been done. But, you know, when you think to yourself, there are different levels to
Yeah.
self-discovery in that respect. But yeah, where am I at the moment in regards to self is how I work with others.
Okay.
Like you said, there's the self or the collaborative part of myself, which sounds weird, but yeah, working with others and accepting help from others.
So what
Is,
self word would you attach that to? Maybe like self-marketing, or how would you put that into a self word that we can get people to vote on?
mm,
Whilst you're
it's
thinking, should I head
yes,
over to Naya?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Naya, what is your self word you want us to explore next?
Depth.
Ooh, self depth. Interesting. Explain a little more.
Layers.
Okay.
Often we tend to just scratch the surface of what we're about, and it can feel like it's enough, but it isn't really, for when it comes to building a strong, solid foundation of who you are and what you're about. If somebody asks or asks, I don't know, my brain did something funny with those words there for a moment. But if someone asks about you, a lot of people, what are the first things that come to mind when self-descriptive? So self-depth, being able to maybe speak about yourself from a level that, in an easy way, from a level that is a lot more individual and personal to you. If you ask me about me, yes, I'm Black. Yes, I'm a woman. These are things you can already see. Do I really need to mention them? What other aspects of self do I have below that?
Very deep inside me.
Yeah, so
Okay.
depth.
Wonderful. Self depth. Thank you very much. And back over to you, Natrel.
Yeah. So it changed slightly, but for me at the moment, I'm in a place of self-discipline. So I'm watching what I eat and when I eat, that sort of thing. Yes, it's all about what I'm currently in control of and why I'm in control of it. But that's where I'm at. So I was even say the power of self-counsel, which is the way we speak to ourselves, even.
Like that.
Because that's where I'm at the moment. I'm in counselling/therapy, but there's also a level of I initiated that. Why did I initiate it? And what am I telling myself in this process? So how am I counselling myself?
Yeah. Okay. So I've got
sorry, going off of that, and again, self-therapy on the back of self-counseling, because they're two slightly different things. They can be broken down. So those would be very interesting.
Okay. All right, I'll take on your suggestions. Thank you very much. There's no one watching that wants to share their self word. Come on, guys. We don't bite. We don't bite. Welcome back, Lordia.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We was just collecting the self words. So, and what the next topic on the Self Project will be. So we've got self-discipline, self-depth, as in the layers that we are, self-counsel and self-therapy. I was going to put forward a self-word, but as you are back, would you like to provide a self-suggestion, Lordia?
I'd say self-reflect, really, because I think sometimes we need to really stop and self-reflect. I know, like, sort of self-discovery and stuff, which you've mentioned before that you've covered. Yes, it's more along the same lines, but it's of a different sort of pathway. So I'd say self-reflect.
Okay, amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, wonderful. So we don't have any more suggestions in the chat. That's absolutely fine. We've got our 5, and it's much easier to do with 5, to be fair. So thank you all so much for your time, your patience, and thank you for coming back, Claudia, as well, just to round off the end of the show. Make sure you follow us on social media to make sure you can cast your vote on one of the next S.E.L.F Project shows for July. I believe it's the 20 what of July? The 23rd of July will be the next S.E.L.F Project show. If you want to be a guest, as I mentioned before, you can apply to be a guest, get your workbook, and learn about the community of practice using this link. If you want to be a sponsor, you can email me. If you want to donate, feel free to drop us some dough through our PayPal. And if you want to watch some past episodes, you can use this link here to watch our playlist, including this episode. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate you. Say your goodbyes to our viewers.
Take care.
Next time. Thanks for
Have
having me
a
in your space.
beautiful day.
Wonderful. Have a blessed and most beautiful Sunday, everyone. Take care.